Star Wars: Dark Forces is a first-person shooter video game developed and published by LucasArts. It was released in 1995 for MS-DOS and Macintosh, and in 1996 for the PlayStation. The story is set in the fictional Star Wars expanded universe and begins shortly before the original Star Wars film, before flashing forward to a year after the film's events. The game's protagonist and playable character is Kyle Katarn, a mercenary working on behalf of the Rebel Alliance who discovers the Galactic Empire's secret Dark Trooper project, which involves the development of a series of powerful new battle droids and power-armored stormtroopers. Dark Forces uses the Jedi game engine, which was developed specifically for the game. The engine adds gameplay features that were uncommon to the first-person shooter genre at the time of release, including level designs with multiple floors, and the ability to look up and down. Upon release, the PC and Macintosh versions of the game received generally favorable reviews from critics, who praised its level design and technological advances, though the PlayStation version was criticized for having poor graphics and slow frame rates which make it much less enjoyable than the computer versions. The game also did well financially, selling almost 1 million copies in the United States by 1999. The game's success launched the Star Wars: Jedi Knight series, beginning with the direct sequel Star Wars Jedi Knight: Dark Forces 2 in 1997. Dark Forces is a first-person shooter, FPS. The player controls Kyle Katarn from a first-person perspective, with a focus on combat against various creatures and characters from the Star Wars universe, although the game also includes environmental puzzles and hazards. Dark Forces follows a central storyline outlined in mission briefings and cutscenes. The storyline of Dark Forces follows Kyle Katarn, a mercenary employed by the Rebel Alliance. Prior to the game's events, Kyle was preparing for a career in agricultural mechanics like his father, but ended up joining the Imperial Academy after his parents were supposedly murdered by rebels, whom he grew to hate. After graduating from the academy and joining the Imperial Army, Kyle met Jan Ors, a double agent working for the rebels, who had uncovered the truth about his parents' death. The Empire were the ones who had them killed, and not the rebels as he had been told by officials. This revelation caused Kyle to distrust the Empire, and he eventually defected in order to rescue Jan, who had been found to be supplying information to the rebels and arrested. Escaping from the Empire together, the pair became mercenaries, and eventually began taking jobs from the Rebel Alliance, because of Kyle's hatred towards the Empire. 11. Dark Forces begins with Kyle and Jan being hired by the Alliance to recover the plans to the Death Star, the Empire's space station outfitted with a super laser capable of destroying an entire planet. The rebels use the plans to find a weakness in the station, and eventually destroy it. 16. 1 year later, the Alliance hires the pair again, this time to investigate an assault on one of their bases by a new type of Imperial soldiers. Kyle's investigation unveils the Dark Trooper project, headed by General Rom Mok. His mission to stop the project takes him to the sewers of Anote City, where he captures Moff Rebus, an Imperial weapons specialist who developed the weapons used by Dark Troopers. Rebus' interrogation leads him to a weapons research facility in the mountains of Fest and the Gromas mines where minerals are extracted for the Dark Troopers. Kyle and Jan later learn that Crix Madine, a former Imperial commander who defected to the Alliance, has been captured by the Empire, and the former infiltrates a high-security detention center on Orinacra to rescue him. After Kyle saves him from his execution, Madine informs the Alliance of an operation to smuggle Dark Trooper materials, leading Kyle and Jan to investigate the Ramses Head docking port on Calceti. Afterward, Kyle also destroys a robotics facility on the icy planet Antivi, the second stage of the Dark Trooper production line. Kyle and Jan's mission is temporarily halted when they are captured by the crime lord Jabba the Hutt, one of the main financiers of the Dark Trooper project. After their escape from Jabba's clutches and an encounter with the bounty hunter Boba Fett, hired by General Mok to kill Kyle, the pair travel to Coruscant, where Kyle infiltrates a computer vault which reveals the location of the Ergo fuel station, the final stage of the smuggling route. Masquerading as a smuggler, Kyle infiltrates the Super Star Destroyer Executor and then the Arkhammer starship, General Mok's headquarters and the location of the Dark Trooper project's final stage. After killing Mok, who is wearing Dark Trooper armor, Kyle destroys the ship and escapes, while Darth Vader watches from the Executor, commenting that the Dark Trooper project's destruction is an unfortunate setback and that the Force is strong with Katarn. For his bravery and heroic actions, Kyle is awarded the Star of Alderaan by the Alliance. Dark Forces is a first-person shooter, FPS. The player controls Kyle Katarn from a first-person perspective, with a focus on combat against various creatures and characters from the Star Wars universe, although the game also includes environmental puzzles and hazards. Dark Forces follows a central storyline outlined in mission briefings and cutscenes. Each mission includes specific objectives which are related to the story. The missions take place in a variety of environments across the Star Wars universe, including a Star Destroyer interior, Jabba the Hutt's yacht, and the planet Coruscant, where the player must infiltrate a computer vault. Dark Forces gameplay expands on the FPS standards set by Doom in 1993, and features gameplay elements that are now common in the FPS genre. These include the ability to look up and down, duck, and jump. A variety of power-ups are made available to the player, including health, shields, weapons and ammunition. The game also features several non-combat items to aid the player. The headlamp illuminates the area in front of the player, but will reveal the player's position to enemies in dark rooms. Ice cleats provide traction in icy areas, and an air mask protects the player from areas with toxic atmosphere. Many inventory items are powered by batteries, separate from weapon ammunition types, which can be found around the levels. 11. For combat, the player may use fists, explosive landmines and thermal detonators, as well as blasters and other ranged weapons. All player weapons except the fist require ammunition, which can be collected in power-ups. All weapons, again with the exception of the fist, have a secondary mode which makes it have a different effect than in primary mode. 14. The player has health and shields which are damaged by enemy attacks and some environmental hazards, and may be replenished through power-ups. In addition to combat, Dark Forces provides physical obstacles for the character, such as jumping from ledges or traversing across flowing rivers, and includes multi-step puzzles such as mazes controlled by switches. Dark Forces achieved a strong following on the internet, and custom levels and maps were created for the game. The popularity of characters from Dark Forces resulted in LucasArts licensing toys based on the game. Hasbro produced Kyle Katarn and Dark Trooper toys, which are among Star Wars and other media items to be turned into action figures. The Dark Troopers were also included in books and comics, and later became canon in The Mandalorian's Chapter 14, The Tragedy. William C. Dietz's novelizations of the Dark Forces storyline were adapted to full-cast audio dramatizations. LucasArts extended Dark Forces with Star Wars Jedi Knight, Dark Forces 2 in 1997, and later 2 more sequels. The Jedi Knight series continues the story of Kyle Katarn and has been praised for its quality as a whole.